This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
I was a part of the Gifted and Talented program in the 90s, and I just found my binder. Like, why was I 10 years old speaking Russian?
Do you guys remember the pink fluoride? Do you remember the headphones with the hearing test where you had to raise your hand? Do you remember the guessing the next card game?
The GATE program, one of the most insane conspiracies I've ever heard of. One that I think might actually be true. This rabbit hole is as vast as it is intriguing. Let me ask you a question. Were you in the GATE program? GATE, which stands for the Gifted and Talented Education Program, was a program designed to further academic development and excellence. Or so they say. Was it really that innocent? No ulterior motives? Well, according to many online, this program was designed to find out if children possess psychic abilities such as remote viewing. If you don't know what remote viewing is, it's basically a paranormal practice where you get information about a location or even a person that is very far away using only your mind. The remote viewer will quote-unquote mentally travel to said target or location and see things as if they were physically there in person. This could possibly be used to spy on enemies and locations without having to hide or infiltrate with the fear of being caught. Apparently, this whole GATE program was an offshoot of the CIA's MKUltra project, which from 1953 to 1973 was designed to find substances that could aid in interrogation situations through the means of brainwashing and psychological torture of the subject. This was also around the time the CIA and the Pentagon started their Stargate and remote viewing programs. Stargate was a $20 million project conducted by the US government, and the goal of this project was to find military uses of psychic abilities such as remote viewing and astral projection. Project Stargate was concluded as a failure in 1995 and its documents were declassified. However, there were people in the project that said success were achieved, but just hidden from us. But there's apparently no proof to substantiate the claims. When it comes to the GATE program, from all the comments and stories I've heard so far on the matter, the program seems to have gone all the way back to the 1970s, stretching to modern times. This does link in with Project Stargate and MKUltra, which was said to have been a thing from 1977 and 1973 respectively. By the looks of it, everyone in America participated in this GATE program when they were younger, but the experiences inside the program varied. Many said that they didn't have any bad or weird experiences, and all they did was do fun activities and go on field trips to varying places, while the rest say they had weird and freaky tests done on them, such as doing visual tests inside of dark rooms and making the children guess what hidden item was behind a covering. Here are a few comments I found explaining their weird experiences. Bremerton, Washington, 1988 to at least 1992 for me. I was one of 6 or 7 kids who didn't fall asleep at the planetarium field trip taken in the back rooms for advanced hearing/vision testing. My mom didn't believe me when she'd asked what happened at school today, and I tell her we were taken under the military base's hangars. Moved to Lakehurst, New Jersey, and the same crap happened. By 4th grade, I was no longer considered the most gifted child they'd ever seen and declared a problem child. I remember refusing not to do what they wanted me to do, but I can't remember what exactly they wanted. Knowing myself today, it was very bad and would have hurt a lot of people. I'll go along with a lot of stuff until people's lives are in danger. As of January 18th, 2025, I can stare at the sun and not go blind. I can concentrate on the surface and see the sunspots, solar flares. It's so beautiful. I think I could possibly be the one. No way for childhood possessions to end up in a desk drawer of a house I never been in. Someone saved all that crap after mom threw it away. I'm not even related to the people who lived in that house for the last 50 years. Crazy stuff. I need more project names so I can find out exactly which program I excelled in. No, they told us to touch a shoebox and write down what we thought was inside. I aced these tests. Then I recall feeling manipulated, and I started refusing to answer or just purposely told them the wrong answer, and they screamed and said, "Stop guessing." I literally tried to end the life of the lady and they injected me or something. This is after months, maybe years of these weird tests. Now I realize they were trying to hypnotize us. They gave us weird drinks that tasted like liquid LSD, which as a teenager I did and said, "I've done this before?" They opened me up to some dark crap in those rooms, and it had nothing to do with academics. There are millions of us. We aren't all nuts, lol. I totally agree with this. So many people recount the same stuff, the same experiences, which means there must be some truth to it. Same goes for the people who didn't have weird stuff happen to them. They also have truth in their stories. Also, the mention of LSD is interesting, which, by the way, stands for lysergic acid diethylamide, is the same substance the CIA loved to use in Project MKUltra. Fascinating. Anyways, here's another comment. I just had a sort of flush of memories come in when I heard this mentioned today, and everything you've said and what I heard elsewhere put alarms off in my head. I guess I was in this as well, and it's choppy, but I was brought into it in either kindergarten or 1st grade. My school had a certain competition every once in a while where we'd guess the amount of marbles or jelly beans. You name it and you'd get a prize. I remember constantly winning with exact or one-off of the amount for a while, and I'd repeatedly be sent to an office to talk with people. We also went on a ton of field trips that to this day confuse me. Almost dreamlike memories, and I don't remember anybody involved to this day. I remember being taken out of class with other students to do weird testing multiple times a week. Some of the tests I remember are Xena cards, trying to guess the symbol behind the card. Dimly lit rooms, laying on the ground with our eyes closed, listening to tapes. Sometimes they'd pause the tapes and ask us to guess what would happen next. Deep discussions with the moderators about adult-like problems. Who would you save if XYZ? Hearing test, where they'd ask you to close your eyes and let them know once you were able to see the red dot. I was in the GATE program as well when I was younger, and just yesterday, after seeing those headphones, did I get a rush of memories. I even talked to my grandpa about it and confirmed I was in it. I have memories of doing a lot of the test, taking field trips to certain places and having to nap with headphones on. Then they would ask me questions about my dreams, and I remember doing the strings test and the person getting mad at me and yelling at me for not being able to complete the last one on spot that I couldn't stop until I finished it. And doing prediction cards and all kinds of stuff, more and more memories keep coming back. Ever since I heard about this and fell down the rabbit hole, And I too vaguely remember experiencing something along these lines. The only thing I can remember was me taking a drink in the staff room. I don't remember what color this drink was and whether this was the GATE program or just a random cool drink me and other kids received from a teacher as a spoil for being good in class. I do not know. I don't remember having to take any hearing tests, but I do think I took a vision test, so I have no idea. I was probably in the GATE program, but I didn't have these bad experiences being mentioned all over the internet. Me and my girlfriend watched a podcast of Shane Dawson where he was talking about this GATE program, and she too remembers the program the moment he mentioned the headphones and played the audio.
This is the exercise for your own development process designed by you. You should be hearing my voice in your right ear.
From what she can remember and the test they did on her in the library of the school, just like many other stories online, she experienced a hearing test as well as a reflex and colorblind test. She doesn't recall ever taking a drink, which this has its own implications and theories. Supposedly, this drink, which was a pink drink, is some sort of memory loss tool used by the program, because whenever you drink it, you have amnesia and you forget all the things they did to you. Some say this drink is fluoride and you don't drink to swallow it, you spit it out after twirling it around in your mouth. When hearing this, I immediately had the obvious question. Would fluoride cause memory loss? Perhaps if you swallow it? Yes, consuming too much fluoride at one time can indeed cause a slew of issues, such as memory loss and development issues. So perhaps this pink drink was indeed a fluoride drink, with high levels of fluoride to promote memory loss. Another strange thing I came across was that if you try and type in the GATE program on TikTok, it gives you this message. It tells us that what you are trying to search is violating the TOS of TikTok. This happened to me on TikTok and TikTok Lite as well, but when I remove D from the sentence and only search GATE program, then I get what I'm looking for. Let's believe the conspiracies for a second and entertain them. Why would the CIA do this? Why would they test children like this for psychic abilities? Why are there so many conflicting reports or experiences on the matter? I think the answers are pretty simple and straightforward. We all know that children are innocent, undeveloped, and unbiased when giving up information. In certain religions such as Christianity, Catholicism, and etc., children are seen as vulnerable and in need of protection. Entities such as demons can appear to them, lie to and deceive them, and children are seen as being able to breach the gap between the physical and spiritual world with little effort. This means, in essence, that young children can be used as tools to reach the spiritual world in some capacity. The CIA would test young children to see if they have the ability to participate in remote viewing, as well as predict wars and the future. Here are a few more comments I found under the video of Shane, where the people commented their experiences. Me and my brother both took that test in the mid-2000s and had to sign contracts saying we will never reveal what happened during those tests. Mine was done at my elementary school in the library, and my hearing test wasn't a guy talking, it was Morse code. However, my brother had to go to the secret building an hour away to run all these tests, but no one was allowed inside but him. I got to stay at my elementary school and got pulled out of class every day and took to this weird building. With my brother, he had to go to a special school who trained kids, basically who had a higher success to these tests. The only way we got out of these programs was when they randomly shut down both our schools at the time. Ever since then, both me and him have been having these episodes of seeing shadow figures that aren't there. I was in that program in elementary for a little bit before my mom pulled me out. She thought it was weird and interrupting my actual education because we'd constantly be pulled out of class and taken to the building where we did whatever we were doing. I don't remember a lot except for how dark the room was. I can recall the eeriness of the classroom, how small it was and how dark it was, almost like they put blackout curtains on the windows. I wasn't in there enough to say I can astral project or anything, but I have had predictive dreams and I have been obsessed with aliens and space for a long time. I met the Greys when I was 8 and was the only one they wanted. They didn't want my brothers. Been there and did the test, but I don't remember much of anything from my younger years from age 5. When I was 13, I had sleep paralysis nightmares that turned into learning how to astral project. I would come home every day after school looking forward to a quote-unquote nap, which was me projecting anywhere I wanted to go. I would do it every day after school. I was fascinated because it felt 100% real to me. I stopped forcing the projections and then got really bad sleep paralysis nightmares as an adult. They were so bad, I told a neighbor who was a minister, then had an exorcism after telling him, immediately had to excuse myself after he was done. I got sick, went to bed and haven't had a sleep paralysis since. It's been 3 years since my last sleep paralysis nightmare and I used to have them all the time. That whole first comment is so strange. Why would you be forced to sign a no disclosure contract if it was just a normal academic assistance test? That makes no sense to me, and it reeks of something darker going on there. Also, why on earth did they close the whole school down? That's so strange too. Now, the second comment made a very good point I'd like to mention that goes against the whole idea that this program was to enhance the child in academics. Taking a child out of their classes and having them miss them and its lectures will definitely hinder the academic progression of the child and make things more difficult to juggle, because then they have to catch up with the lectures somehow, as well as doing homework and sports if they have that going on in the background. Saying it doesn't hinder the child's academics is just false. It's propaganda. To answer the third question I had, why there are so many conflicting experiences with this topic? That's not hard to answer. Perhaps the CIA launched the GATE program with 2 different splinter groups. Let's call them Group X and Group Y. Group Y would be your standard hearing, vision and other tests, while Group X would be the malicious one, where they go further and more invasive with the tests. That way, when the topic is brought up online or in friend circles, it causes confusion and perhaps anger due to the opposing sides calling the other a liar, and in return the topic gets dropped and nobody questions the invasive bad program, allowing the CIA to get away with whatever they did. This is a genius move from the CIA side, not gonna lie. With so many people that came forward with their bad experiences, it tells me that there is something very off and strange about this, and that the CIA did test children for psychic abilities. Not sure if anyone else had the same experience, but I remember those of us that were considered gifted and put into their higher learning program were also automatically enrolled into the small kind of summer camp that they had also. I remember there only being a small handful of us to have been brought into it, maybe 10 to 15 of us, and we would go Monday to Friday. During the week for a few hours with overnights and on weekends if parents permitted. I swear that it felt so eerily military-like. being there after multiple summers. Crap, the area that was set up for us to sleep on weekends came off as the exact thing you'd envision to be a military barracks. I can still feel cool to the touch. The thick white brick concrete walls would feel on really hot days. I can still clearly picture the row of small metal cots that ran down the length of an outer wall that had been inlaid with multiple little rectangle windows near the ceiling for light to come through. Enough rambling though. Anyone else experience anything remotely similar to that part? I was in 2nd grade when I got tested in 2002. How interesting. I just remember a lady in a black suit come in with a briefcase. She opened it up and handed everyone tests. I liked the test because it was finally something I felt good at. They would pull me out of class, which I loved because I didn't like school, and they would do these tests, but at the time I thought they were games. That's what they made it seem like, and they were all overly nice. I don't remember much, but I do remember the Xena cards. They had them placed on this standing board and they would make me choose a symbol. I also remember this case with her headset in it, and they would play these frequencies. There was also another hearing test where it was someone talking, like a short kid story, but I had to press the red button when I heard a certain word. The weirdest part was when I moved, I attended another school in a sister district and they claimed to have no record of me being a part of the GATE program. My mom got upset because she knew I was in it. She told them to retest me, but they never did. However, I am glad that happened because the GATE program at the new school had kids in advanced classes. The following are my memories of the GATE program I attended in 2003. I was in 2nd grade when the testing started, and these memories occurred around that time. These memories are foggy, like memories that I forgot but had remembered before. I saw a TikTok about the GATE program conspiracy and a few things started jogging my memories. First with the Xena cards, and then I would slowly start remembering various other memories. Here are some of those fragmented and possibly fabricated memories. Blue room blindfold. I was afraid to enter the room and was freaked out by being asked to wear a blindfold. The teachers convinced me it was safe and okay when I raised concerns. I eventually agreed to it after having objections. I entered the room blindfolded and was sat down at a desk and told to look forward and do not look behind me. The lady was the one who brought me in and told me the rules. Then she said, I'm going to leave the room and I'll be back in just a minute. I remember thinking that I was probably being watched by a camera or something. I don't remember if I looked or not, but when she returned, she asked me if I had looked. I don't remember my response. Hearing test with button to press. I remember being told to listen to this audio and I asked if I heard anything in between the sounds, and I remember hearing something, a man's voice maybe, in between frequencies. I remember feeling like I wasn't actually hearing the voice. It didn't sound like I was perceiving it through my ears, and was confused, but the man who was testing me reassured me that this was normal. I remember talking to another student in the program about if they heard something in between the sounds, and they said no. A screen with a line on it and electrodes on my temples, maybe? Being told to try and move the line. I remember asked how I was supposed to move the line, and he told me to concentrate on it, but didn't give me much other guidance. This was the same man that was involved with testing other things. The same man tested me with Xena cards, and I questioned how the cards were supposed to work, and he told me to just try it. I asked if I did well on this test, and he said you got some of them but not enough. I remember asking to try again, and he entertained it. Classroom object guessing. I was brought to a classroom upstairs and asked to locate 3 objects hidden in the other classrooms. I asked how I was supposed to know where they were and was told to just try and guess. Then the woman, not with the school, showed me pictures of the objects and asked me to guess where they were again. I don't remember what the objects were, but I think one was a teddy bear. Interrogation. Brought into a room that had windows but were covered. It was darkish. Gifted program teacher told me that the lady who was not from the school was going to come in and ask me very strange questions and to try not to question her. I feel like she asked me some really creepy questions. I feel like one of the questions had to do with ending the life of someone or violence. And she left in the middle of the testing and I said, I think we're done with the testing here. And then the gate teacher convinced her to come back in and told me when the lady was out of the room to be more careful with how I answered the questions. Pink liquid. I was told to drink a pink liquid from a small paper mouthwash cup. I asked what it was and was told to just drink it. I remember saying, I won't drink it if you don't tell me what it is. And they continued on and didn't make me drink it. I asked something like, so I didn't have to drink it? Or so you're not going to make me drink it? And I was told that it was a test. I was told I was the only student to pass this test. I told my mother about this test when I got home and she told me they wouldn't make you do that and dismissed it. Library video. These people in suits were introduced to us in the library and the lady present during testing was there. They were introduced as leaders in their fields. A different man showed us a video on the TV. I think it had something to do with a plane. Then he said, I'm going to show you the second video and you're going to forget what you saw. I objected to this and misunderstood what he meant, thinking that he was going to force us to forget. But really, I think he was implying for us to willfully forget. When I objected, the woman present for the testing told me to sit down. The man said no. No, if he doesn't want to stay, he doesn't have to. And then said something like, but if you leave, you can't be part of what we're doing today. I remember saying, but I can still be in the gifted and talented program. And he said, yeah, but you can't participate in what we're doing today. I left the room with two teachers who, when I asked, told me they weren't allowed to stay for that video. And they said something like, I don't blame you for wanting to leave, inferring maybe they picked up on something being weird. I asked the kids who stayed after if they forgot the video, and I remember one of them saying I didn't forget what was on the video, but they refused to tell me what was on that video. I also remember a bubble thing, and it gave me memories of a colorful woman trying to get us to meditate and listen to this music while we laid on the ground. I remember expressing that this was dumb, and I remember feeling guilty for expressing it to the lady because she seemed hurt by it. Those stories are incredibly disturbing. Like I said before, from all these comments we've been reading today, as well as what I've heard of online, these kids were clearly taken on weird field trips, and even to military grounds and underneath its airplane hangars. This all makes sense if you tie in the fact that this program was said to be conducted by the CIA and they were doing tests in other programs to recruit people for military purposes, and not just recruits, but recruits that have psychic abilities. To make this whole GATE program thing so much more bizarre than it already is the fact that a UFO whistleblower named Jake Barber, a military veteran, claimed to have been in the GATE program as well as something called the UAP program, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon program, and he was used to retrieve a UAP in said program to make contact with it through the means of psychic abilities. He said a few things on an interview he did with a man named Ross Coulthart. an Australian journalist praised for his outspoken nature. The things that were mentioned in this interview were pretty crazy and bizarre.
I've come to understand now, after being involved with other parts of the programs that are tested on the range, that there is a known and researched and implemented emotional or psychic, or what we call a psionic component to the research and development of the UAP program.
Now, Jake, I know it's going to be very confronting for our audience to hear this, but you think that you've discovered something potentially about yourself as a result of that experience, that you might in fact have abilities that you were never aware of.
I know in my childhood, if we look back to when I was a kid, I sincerely believe that the screening I went through in high school, my grandparents when I was a kid, the reason I joined the military is real simple. I wanted to jump out of airplanes, kill bad guys, and make my grandparents proud. My grandparents were still always there, making sure I had some outlet for certain things. And so they got me involved with an art program and a music program. I'll have to tell you, so my Navy grandfather, he was the superintendent. He got his doctorate in education, and by the time I had graduated high school, he had retired as a superintendent of our school district. So he was a very influential man.
And I understand he ran the gifted and talented education program for that school district.
Yeah, you could say he was the ambassador for this area for the GATE program, which was a program for gifted and talented kids. And my personal experience with that was great. It was, I just got pulled out of normal class a couple of times a day, at least twice, and got to go to a private classroom where I had one-on-one time with a staff member there who played a lot of games with me inside and outside, and we ran a number of creative classes together. And outside of that, I also, after school, I would attend, I had a private art teacher, I learned music. And so I felt like I had a unique education experience as a kid.
Here are also a few interview lines of Ross Coulthard he has made that struck me. But I do know that the Air Force has been working on psionics for many, many decades. They never stopped investigating the power of the human mind and consciousness. Ever since the Stargate program and the remote viewing program, I know all the supposed debunkers say it's BS, but I can tell you it's not BS. I've seen it for myself and it's real. I'm very interested in hearing from people who were part of the GATE program 20 to 50 years ago, who found themselves in rooms with US Air Force officers and strange psychologists in white lab coats, showing them on occasions strange, apparently non-human objects. Yes, this has been happening. Young kids, pubertal kids, has been misused in experimentation by our military in experiments designed to develop an understanding of how to engage with the phenomenon, with a consciousness. And I think at the same time that NHI consciousness is trying to engage with humanity individually. Now, what on earth are psionics? I sure as heck didn't know either until I did my research for this video. Psionics basically means the study and use of psychic and mental powers such as telepathy, telekinesis, and even the ability to teleport. This is all incredibly crazy and tinfoil, I know, but this comes from a man who interviewed many people who claim to have been in these fields of research, as well as the fact that the CIA literally had projects which I mentioned in the beginning stages of the video, where they were doing tests to find people with psychic abilities, and it was claimed that people were found. To circle back to the start of the video, to the infamous audio that causes everyone to remember the GATE program. Do you know where that audio came from that they used in the GATE program? From a hypnosis tape recorded by Robert Monroe, a New York broadcasting executive. This tape goes hand in hand with a PDF file called the Gateway Program on the CIA website. Yes, I'm not joking. This is legit. These supposed hearing tests were from hypnosis tapes. What on earth was going on back then? If all of this doesn't scream fishy to you, then I honestly don't know what will. Let me read to you a few lines from this Gateway Program file I found. We are instructing and training individuals in the art of switching perceptual modes, the art of becoming more conscious of one's particular inner resources, inner abilities, and most of all, of one's inner guidance. Why would the GATE program be using a tape for hypnosis as a quote-unquote hearing test? This makes no sense, as the tape is specifically designed to hypnotize the person and reach their inner abilities, meaning astral projection. These tapes were literally used to alter your consciousness, something completely different than your hearing. This all makes so much sense and paints a scary picture as to why some of these GATE experiences had children meditate, listen to audios, sitting or laying in dark rooms on the ground. The GATE program, I can most definitely assure you, dear listener, was not to enhance your academics or your sports performance. It was a cover-up to test you for psychic abilities and to indoctrinate you into joining the CIA and the military. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, tap the like button, share with others you think might be interested as well, and subscribe to soothe that fascination.